Footy season, it's nearly here. G'day from the West, Lucas here, and welcome back to another Footy West video. And today we are going to be doing a little preview, a match preview of the West Coast Eagles and the North Melbourne Kangaroos, who are going head to head in an official pre-season clash at Hands Oval in Bunbury. Before we get started today, make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe, click on the notification bell so you never miss a new Footy West video. But we'll get straight into things today, and first of all, I reckon this is going to be a good match. I think it's going to be a good match. We're going to be able to see the two teams where they're at officially in their last hit out before the season starts, and see where things might be headed. These two teams, the Eagles and the Kangaroos, they've been in very similar positions throughout the last couple of years. The Kangaroos have been down longer, but they look like they may be able to really leap if they do things right. A lot of people are a bit skeptical still on the Kangaroos. Equally, a few are optimistic that they will make a jump, but I think they're in a grey patch. We don't quite know what to expect this year for them. And for the Eagles, a lot of fans are hoping for a bit of a jump up the ladder and just an improvement in overall performance. So this preseason game is going to be quite a fascinating one to watch for both fan bases and both perspectives. And I've written down a few key points that we're going to discuss today in the match preview, and then at the end I'll give my predictions. And the first one I want to touch on, which doesn't seem too significant, but I think it'll still play a role, and that this is Jack Darling's first hit out against the Eagles. Obviously, 298 games with the West Coast Eagles, champion of the club. So it's going to be a bit different for him to be playing on the other side of a West Coast Eagles game. I think he'll embrace the opportunity and play for his new side, North Melbourne. So that's going to be a very interesting dynamic, and it'll be, I suppose, interesting to see how the Eagles fans and the team get around him and how they embrace him as an opposition player. Obviously, the Eagles, they've got a revamped sort of game style going on, the quick ball movement under new coach Andrew McQualter. So I'm expecting to see more of that from the Eagles, and I'm just expecting them to put it on show again and find these things out about how they're going to do it. But I think one of the big questions for me is, will West Coast's midfield be able to match North Melbourne's? In my opinion, North Melbourne have one of the best young midfields in the league, so West Coast are going to have to do very well to be able to match them. But look, you look at the names in North Melbourne's midfield. I mean, you've got LDU leading the way. You've got Harry Sheasel in there. You've got Tom Powell, Will Phillips, and then you've got like Finn O'Sullivan playing on the wing, and Colby McKersha's been playing on the wing a bit as well, I think, for the Kangaroos. And then that's all led by Tristan Xerri, their ruckman, who is in quite good form and was very, very good last season for them. So their midfield on paper looks like a very, very strong proposition, and I don't know how West Coast are going to handle that. There's a lot of unknown about the Eagles though. There's a new coach, there's new tactics at play for sure, and there's new methods of ideas in the coach's box. So that's an interesting battle, and I expect North Melbourne will probably get the better of that. But what lets North down, and the reason they keep sort of losing games, and particularly in the last couple of seasons, it's their defence for mine. Their defence is quite undermanned. I mean, you've got Charlie Comben, who I think is better off as a forward. And then you've got Aiden Core, who I think is a B grade at best, maybe, in defence, and Griffin Logue, who's just come back from a lot of time out of the game last year for the Roos, and I don't think he's up to it either. So they've got some serious problems down back North Melbourne, and that's where West Coast are probably going to be able to expose the Kangaroos. I think West Coast have got one of the best forward lines in the league, I'll say that. And I don't think that's biased. I think they've got a brilliant crop of young small forwards coming through. You got Noah Long, Matt Owies as a bit of experience, Tyler Brockman, Tyrell Dua plays them forward. So you've got all these guys coming through, and I heard something from David King and Kane Corn speaking on SEN about how important small forwards are, and they are so vital to a side. So you look at that, and then they're led by Oscar Allen and Jake Waterman, two very good key forwards. So I actually think West Coast have got a very strong forward line, and when you get a strong forward line meeting a weak defence, there could be problems. So that's where I think North Melbourne could lose this game, and if West Coast can sort of match them in the middle at least, and really take advantage in their forward half, they can win this game. And in terms of North's forward line, I wouldn't say it's excellent, but I wouldn't say it's bad. They've obviously got Nick Larkey up there, who's a prime target for them. And Jack Darling is there to help them out now as well. And Paul Curtis seems to always play well against West Coast for some reason. So I think those three can have definitely a big influence up forward for the Kangaroos against West Coast in this pre-season match. But again, West Coast have got a young and developing backline that's starting to come through and shoot some greens. So you got Brady Hoff coming through, who's playing really well. You've got Harry Edwards, who's going to get some more game time. Still probably not quite up to it yet, but I expect mid-year, hopefully he will get to the standard, but it's a good learning opportunity for him this game. And then it's a first real look at Ryan Marrick down back in a quite a professional game. Obviously, it's the community series. It's a league-wide series. Everyone plays in it. So you've got these young defenders for the Eagles coming through, but then you've got these Kangaroos forwards, and I think Nick Larkey is a really important player for them. He has been the lone hand up forward for so long, and I think he's a very, very good player. So in terms of the areas of the ground, I think North Melbourne are on top in the middle, West Coast are on top in their forward line, and it's probably even for West Coast's defence and North Melbourne's attack. Maybe West Coast's defence is probably slightly better, but that one could go 50-50 if you ask me. And just one more thing important to note as well for North Melbourne, George Wardlaw is out with his hamstring, so he won't be in the game, so that just weakens their midfield a touch, but you still look at it on paper and you go, wow, that is a talented young midfield. And really, North Melbourne should be doing more with that talent. If they had their other areas right, they would definitely be moving up the ladder. So they're an intriguing watch this year, and also in this pre-season match to get a gauge about where they're going. And then some other key matchups, I think you would probably do Jeremy McGovern on Nick Larkey. I think that's probably the best way to go for a West Coast perspective. And then you'd probably put Harry Edwards on Jack Darling. And then for like the Eagles forwards, that's a problem for the Kangaroos if you ask me. Usually you can send your best defender, who they probably think is Griffin Logue. I think Griffin Logue will probably try and be a key position defender for the Kangaroos. I don't know, I haven't actually watched much of the Kangaroos. I've just read up on a few things and looked at a few stats, but I think he's probably going to play as a key position defender, and he'll probably play on Waterman or Allen. And when you've got Griffin Logue playing on someone like Jake Waterman, that's going to cause heaps of problems for North Melbourne. So I'm really intrigued about those matchups, those starting matchups at least, and how both sides go with matching up players and the one-on-ones. A very one-sided battle, I think, will be in the ruck. You got Tristan Cherry, probably very close to All-Australian in 2024, and you'll probably have Bailey Williams as West Coast starting ruck. That is a landslide. Tristan Cherry is probably going to absolutely annihilate Bailey Williams. And to Bailey Williams' credit, as I've said numerous times on the channel, he has done the best he can with his abilities in his situation, but he will get decimated. So that's going to be an area of concern for the Eagles, and it all ties back to the midfield. I just don't know how they're going to go. West Coast definitely have some talent in there. They've got Jack Graham in there now. They've got Harley Reid, obviously. Elijah Hewitt, I'm not sure if he would play, but I think he could definitely add some midfield depth. And I think he should be named in the squad to play. I'm filming this video before the squads come out or anything. It's Monday. But I think Elijah Hewitt should play and should get some game time in a pre-season match, and he would add some midfield depth to sort of match North Melbourne's young, brilliant midfield. And obviously, North Melbourne have also added some experience to their lineup. They've added Luke Parker and Caleb Daniel. And Caleb Daniel, from all reports, was very good off half-back for North Melbourne. He was winning a lot of the footy. He was taking it on. So he seems a very good pickup for the Kangaroos. So I think it's going to be important for someone to play sort of maybe like a forward defensive type role on Caleb Daniel to stop him creating those chains of ball movement through the middle of the ground and through that powerful midfield that North Melbourne have got. And you throw Luke Parker into the strong midfield as well. He's a level head, he's a head of experience. So I think that's really important for them as well, because they are very, very young. I think they're still the youngest list in the league. So adding the experience of Luke Parker to that midfield is a big bonus for the Roos. But in terms of match results, I reckon West Coast probably get over the line. I think it'll be quite close. I'm going to say West Coast by about 15. The best on ground for the Eagles, I'm going to say Jake Waterman. I reckon he will get a hold of these North Melbourne defenders. They're a bit lackluster, like I've said. He'd probably kick 3 or 4 goals. And then I think Liam Baker will also do pretty well off halfback. He just fit in so well. He's looking like he's adapting to McQualter's game style. Obviously played under him at Richmond in 2023. So he's got that in the back of his mind and he's able to bring that to West Coast. And I've gone with Brady Hoff as well as my third best on ground. He'll be able to shut down whoever he gets. I have full faith in him. He's played so many good lockdown roles, particularly in 2024. So I think whoever he gets, whether it be Paul Curtis or whoever, I think he'll be able to do a good job to keep them to a minimal impact. I think for North Melbourne to be Tristan Cherry, I reckon he will absolutely be a best on ground. When you're dominating in the ruck, like I'm guessing he will be, it gives you even more confidence to play more freely out of the ruck. So I think that's a big bonus for him. I'm not sure how it'll impact Bailey Williams, but we'll wait and see. And then obviously LDU, I mean, he's consistently now at a level where he's consistently good, really. And then Harry Sheezel, it's probably a bit basic, haven't gone with anything left of centre there. It's just Luke Davies-Uniacke and Harry Sheezel are 2 very reliable North Melbourne midfielders in my opinion, and they will show up more weeks than not. So I'm predicting their midfield to lead the way here in North Melbourne. So I think overall it'll be a good matchup, really. It'll be good, like I said, a test for both sides to see where they're at. West Coast, they won their match simulation against Richmond, albeit a very young, inexperienced, undermanned Richmond. And in their match, their intra-club, obviously there were a few good signs. North Melbourne put up a decent fight, I thought, against Melbourne. Melbourne were probably, they went in probably with a B side, but still very talented side there. You just look at it and you think this is going to be a very intriguing match. So that's probably all I have to say about this one. It'll be very interesting to see how it unplays. Let me know what you guys think, who's going to be best on ground, who you think's going to win, what kind of key points do you think we should be looking at if you're a North fan or a West Coast fan. And yeah, I'll have a read through them and let you know. But I really